Welcome to the Legendarium Green Team. I'm your host, Kyptan, and with me today are Befuddled Panda,
Hello.
Ashamon,
Hi, everybody.
and Dusty.
Cowboy Sang.
Nice.
Awesome. Today we'll be discussing Consider Phlebas, the first book in Ian M. Banks' Culture series, published in 1987. This is our second Culture episode. You can check out episode 159 for our breakdown of Player of Games, which we consider a broader entry point. Okay, we're going to be starting with general impressions and ratings of this book, and I'm very interested to hear what people have to say. Panda, I'd love for you to go first.
Mm-hmm. Of course you would. You want me to give my star rating of this book?
I do.
Okay. I'm like between a 2.5 and 3. That's how I feel.
Wow.
Yeah.
Out of
Wow.
5 or 10?
Out of 5. I'm not that cruel. General impressions. Oh my god, why did I read this book? I read it because you told me to. That's why. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into because it is so different from the Player of Games, which I really enjoyed, and I was expecting to also enjoy this. I knew very little about this going in. And I don't hate it. I see there are definitely parts that I did enjoy, but there were a lot of parts that I, 1, did not really care about and honestly skimmed. 2, I had to put this book down because I was gonna throw up.
Ooh.
Yeah. And then 3, the characters just were not all that interesting to me, unfortunately. And I was expecting more of the minds to be more like active participants in this book, and I was disappointed. So those are my general thoughts.
Okay. Dusty, you look like you want to say something.
No, I was going to say the minds are active participants in this book. You just don't see it firsthand.
I mean, there's definitely one of them that's an active participant / target of capture.
Yes. But
Damsel in distress.
But like they had very little page time, you know?
But some of the best page time.
I agree, but not enough.
Okay.
It was
We can agree with that too.
Yeah.
My ranking of culture books corresponds quite a bit with how many minds are in them and how much time they get.
That's really funny.
Ash.
My thoughts are pretty similar to Panda here. I finished this book because I had an obligation. I cannot claim to have really understood the nuances of many of the characters or the plot. Yeah, this is... I will not say that Ian M. Banks is a bad writer here. I will say that, like Asimov, here his characters are not good. He has really good ideas. Okay, there are some good characters, absolutely, for sure. They are not the ones that get any of the page time. There are like points in this book where I'm like, are we gonna get some of this really interesting perspective? No, we're not. There are a lot of great ideas in this book. There is some excellent introspection and philosophy and discussion of themes, and all that great stuff is like 2% of the novel, and then everything else my eyes are like glazing over. I did not enjoy the main character at all. And a lot of what he chooses to spend the page time on, my eyes were glazing real hard.
Okay, so what's your number rating?
I want to give it a 2. I can bump it up to a 2.5 because, like I said, the ideas were great. You know, there's compelling stuff backing this, and even if this has been my introduction to the culture, I would still want to read more books. I would just hope that they are significantly different.
Okay. Now it's Dusty's turn for his actual thoughts on the book and his rating.
Well, my other thoughts are just me, her own thing. Yes. Okay.
Not just defending that there are minds in this book.
Yes. No, I actually really like this book. Yes, on my second read, I liked it a little bit less, but this was my introduction to the culture. I just read by publication order, and picked it up, read the intro about the mind escaping. I know it's not really spoilery yet, but and I was like, that's so cool. What's happening? And so I still really liked it. Yes, I dislike about 99.99% of the characters in here. But I realize that in real life, there's a large percentage of people who I also dislike and don't think are good characters. So I think Banks very well captured real life.
Oh my god.
So I took that in stride and yeah, I enjoyed it, even for the weird parts that seemed unimportant. They kind of make more sense now, having read the whole Culture series. So I can say I definitely enjoyed it, and my star rating is a bit higher, maybe 4.5, maybe even 5.
4.5. What?
5 stars.
I'm pretty generous with my 5 stars. If you look at my Goodreads, if I give a book 3 stars, it's basically trash or something that I would put under a table to keep the table from rocking.
Your rating system is whack.
No, it's just optimistic.
So just subtract 2 stars from every rating, then, and you lose precision.
Okay.
If I give it 5 stars and I review it, even if the review is super short, it means that it's like 6 or 7 stars.
Okay.
That's how
Okay.
mine works.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
All right. I respect that.
I feel like I need to use the 1 and 2 stars, or else they're just wasted space.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, this is probably the third or fourth time I'm reading this book. Not a ton new for me. I really wondered how much certain sections of it were necessary.
Yep.
But overall, I think that the imagination and world building that he's put on display and the large scale action pieces that he sets up are really adding something to science fiction, and they deserve at a minimum 4 stars.
Okay. Okay.
We have balance.
That's where I stand on this book. And if I'm going to like credit this book for starting the culture, it goes up to 4.5 stars.
Okay.
Oh.
So where does this book fall in like your ranking of all the culture books?
Pretty low.
Yeah,
Like
pretty
is
low.
it dead last or is there like even worse?
It's not dead last.
Okay.
Oh, good dead last.
That's a very personal scale. And I
Mhm.
think if I was being a less personal person in devising that ranking, then I would put it dead last.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right.
You're not cold and robotic enough yet.
You know, I've been making improvements.
Oh dear. Okay.
His heart grew 10 sizes when he read Consider Phlebas.
Hey, being cold and robotic is the future, so you're good.
Oh.
Yeah, as we sort of kind of learn from the culture, absolutely.
They don't have to be cold either.
Yeah, they can simulate warmth.
Are people ready to dive into a spoiler-filled discussion about this book?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
So I am excited to talk about this book. Like, even though I did not enjoy the majority of it, I'm here to talk about it.
Awesome.
Yes,
Rip it a new one.
this is definitely not a book where it's just garbage. And I don't think, yeah, as I said, I don't think it's garbage. There's a lot that's really interesting here.
See, for me, that's what
Mhm.
warrants the 4 stars.
Yeah.
I feel like what warrants high star ratings for me is if the story is good. And I think we're all agreeing that the story is not good.
No, I think the story is good. I just think I hate everybody.
I see. Yeah, fair enough.
I think that there's some unnecessary interludes that could have been cut.
Yeah.
I feel like this book does a lot of things that I would consider somewhat necessary. It gets a lot of the boring criticisms of the culture out of the way so we don't have to deal with them later.
Yep.
That's one way to look at it.
And it presents the culture from an opposing viewpoint first, which is unusual
Yeah.
and
Okay.
pretty cool in my mind.
Even though he's wrong.
The culture doesn't agree he's wrong necessarily, just misguided.
No, but I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man, some of his
Sure.
postulations are so dumb. They're
Yeah,
so
they're
dumb.
super stupid.
Ugh.
Oh, I really love when he starts talking about faith and biological determinism.
He's an idiot. Sorry.
No, he's just a little blind. Just a little blind. And I
Just a
can
little-
understand why he's a little blind. This time I really tried to understand Horza's cultural prejudices a little bit more
Sure.
and extrapolate his political influences. But let's dive in.
Okay, let's do it.
Do it.
Warning, spoilers for Consider Phlebas, an ancient book, which was actually even more ancient because it was rewritten from a 1984 work that he'd originally thought about, and then he rewrote it and published it.
Cool.
So, first up, this is the book that covers the Adiran War of the culture. And we start with a saboteur, spy, infiltrator, Bora Horza Gorbachev, and his on-again, off-again antagonist, Perostek Belveda.
I am impressed you can pronounce these names.
He was totally practicing
Very
before the
impressive.
episode.
I haven't even said Zokzarl yet.
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness.
Unaha Clasp?
Yeah, the one that I can pronounce is Unaha Klops. Maybe not even that
Awesome.
well.
Belveda.
Belveda.
I mean, they're
Easy.
fun names, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're future names.
Okay.
they're a bunch of letters.
So, what does everyone think about Horza's stated reasons for supporting the Adiran side of this war? The idea that he is on the side of biology, not machines.
I think he's both full of it and there are so many people who are in his camp, right? And probably more so at the time this was published. The idea that there's something magical about meat as opposed to synthetics. I don't buy it, of course. It's kind of a hard position to defend, philosophically, but there are a lot of people who intuitively think that way. So.
I'll reframe it then as one of his sub-arguments, which is, isn't it insane to give up control of society to another group of people and exclude yourself from decision-making?
Uh-huh. Well, when you put it that way, it sounds just like he's angry that he's that they're not living in a communist utopia or an anarchist one. But he's on the side of the religious fascists. So,
Yeah, but listen.
Kind of a
they
blind
listen to
spot there.
people.
Oh my God, they're people themselves.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
the religious fascists listen to
They have
people?
hearts.
Haven't they wiped out entire planets because the planet was like, nah, we're not going to get in your weird religion thing?
But they're reasonable people.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I guess if you think of it that way, it makes a lot of sense because there are a lot of people who can be very short-sighted. And so if you find somebody who's also very short-sighted, whatever the word is I'm looking for, then they're easy to understand as opposed to open-minded and multicultural sometimes, then that's hard to understand.
Yeah.
Horza.
I'll be honest with you. I didn't care. I just didn't care. I was
Anytime
like,
Horus is on the page, just
well, no, it's not that. It's
not
like,
trying to figure out the prominence of his motivations.
no, because at the end I was like, you're really dumb. Like,
Yeah, but
Okay.
minds think that about all of us.
well,
But they're
you
nice
know-
about it.
Except maybe
Yeah.
Paul McGee. They're like, what is up with you?
Which one?
The human who's being informed of the opinion and is giving her
Right.
advice on what the culture should do.
Oh, I always forget about her. The
anomaly.
climber.
yeah.
Yeah, one of the anomalies.
Mm-hmm.
I do like how how it's they give a tepid defense, well, humans can't compete with minds. This is an established fact. But there are a lot of humans. How many trillions of them? You're gonna get a couple dozen that have something worth saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think part of it is that, there's this appendices about the Adiran culture war.
I love that as an ending.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, me
Like,
too. It's super dope.
I feel like this book could have been 200 pages shorter and that get to that appendices faster, and then I would have enjoyed it more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which parts would you cut?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm curious.
So, what I would say is this book is fairly action-packed.
Agreed.
However, I skimmed a lot of the action because this guy went into so much detail trying to describe every movement, what each character was seeing and everything. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, I don't care. Just give me the highlights and I want to know the outcome. It was you have tension building in these action scenes, but I couldn't really get into the momentum of the action because there were so many things being described, each movement that was being described, and I was just like, that's way too much. So to me, a lot of the action scenes could have actually been slimmed down and been made, pardon the pun, more punchy. So
I totally agree. I think you could also safely cut quite a few action sequences, right? Like when they're on the planet. What I don't remember what the planet
The
is.
orbital?
No, not the orbital. Well, okay,
No?
you could also cut a lot from the orbital. But when they're on the planet to find the mine.
Dry Azons.
Yeah.
Shar's
Char's
When they're-
World.
Yeah, when they're on Char's world, I think you cut like a good 80% of that, like them
Wow.
just like tromping through the train tunnels. Oh, are we gonna
But
get
it
the
was
train
building-
moving yet?
And you
What's
wouldn't have
going
the
on?
breakdown of like
That was-
Zog-Zarl and his slow escape from captivity.
Oh,
Yeah, I liked that stuff because you're like, hey, what's happening? And then suddenly he drops a train on them. So
mind numbing. Mind numbing. I could have done with like the injured one.
I
could have done
totally
like,
agree
one
with you that last bit drags.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
you could also cut a lot where it's just like he's getting to know the pirates. They're gonna die almost
Yeah.
immediately.
Literally,
ooh.
he spent paragraphs on each character,
Yep.
Yep.
and then I was like, cool, I don't care.
he wanted you to feel bad when some idiot uses AG on a non-AG orbital.
Oh no.
That's like splat.
I was like, oh man, I hate these pirates. This is great.
I think you could safely cut like the assault on the monastery, most of their salvage
Oh.
mission on the orbital, a lot of the post-damage game stuff. I think you could make the damage section longer actually, because that was a really interesting concept. I don't think they got enough page time.
That part I was actually interested in for sure. Yeah.
Right? That damage is like a really cool game. It could be like a Casino Royale kind of thing.
Yeah.
Horza like almost loses his mind,
Mhm.
Yeah.
staring into an infinite reflection.
It was just like Ash had said earlier, the choices that he made of what he spent words on, I just don't enjoy. Like the things that I would like to know more about would be like I actually was more interested in, was it Belveda?
Alveda.
Belveda, like her as a character. We got a little bit at the end where she was like, I do feel like I'm part of this team, even though she's a prisoner, And I'm just like, what was her real like goal here? Because she seems like a fairly smart person, but then she got into the situation. It's just like she's really
our
did nothing.
first example of a culture special circumstances agent.
Mhm.
Yeah. And we
And
have
the
no
thing-
idea what they're thinking.
Yep. Very little ideas about what they do, what they can get up to, other than the fact that they're quite deadly. And they
Yeah.
sometimes carry guns in their teeth.
Yeah, which was really cool reveal. But also, okay, if I'm just gonna skip to the end, Horza, the fact that this guy took the enemy to the mind that he was trying to find and trying to prevent the culture from finding. I'm just like, why? I get it, like he doesn't want to leave her alone and blah blah blah,
Yep.
but there were totally other ways,
He was having a crisis of conscience.
But also, he wasn't up against Valveda. He was up against thousands of years of machine practice manipulation. So how much of that was him actually thinking that stuff, and how much of it was something was implanted in him a long time ago, and they managed to get their agent in there, even though
Okay.
he thought that they didn't.
I mean, if you're saying that, then how much of it was Fall Nagistra?
Yeah.
Well, something
know.
that I didn't quite understand was there was this like flashback scene in Horza's past, or maybe it was a dream. Like I couldn't tell what exactly it was because it was portrayed like a dream, but I couldn't tell if it was like something that actually happened in his past where he like had some sort of encounter with not quite a maker, but somebody that was like training him or manipulating him or something. You guys know what I'm talking about? And that's where the ba-la-la
No.
came in.
La la
No?
la.
I know
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
Blah.
Like he woke up and then I don't know if I can find the chapter, but it was like when they were in the tunnels and like, he set up the perimeter alarm and he fell asleep and the Unaha clasp was like watching him.
And saying bala 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 bala.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And that was like part of his dream or flashback or something. But then, later on when the drone was damaged, that's what it was saying. And I don't know if there was supposed to be a connection between the two.
Oh, I don't know.
Hmm.
Could be.
Should have marked it. Sorry. I don't
You
know.
mean sort of like a hypnosis thing?
Maybe. And that, if that is the case, right, then to Kip's point, or to Dusty's point, maybe somewhere in his past he was actually implanted, certain characteristics, certain thoughts, motivations that would then have him lead Belveda to the mind, maybe. But that might be too big brain.
So are you talking about the bit where he's dying and losing consciousness? Because that's where Unaha Kloss was mostly saying blah, blah.
No, so there's a part where they went into the tunnels, right? And then everybody was really tired. And so he was like, okay, let's call it for the night. And then he was sleeping. But there was a flashback type or dream sequence.
Oh, okay. With Zorlandra?
Maybe. Yes. Yeah, chapter 11. It's like,
Yes.
wake up now. Come on, wake up, right?
Okay. Yes.
Am I making something up?
Yeah, no, it's pretty clear that he was mentally influenced by the Adirans.
Okay.
That is, yes.
They put him through some sort of academy training process, and he became one of their agents.
Okay, I think I may have misremembered things in this section. So just ignore everything I said for the past 5 minutes.
Okay.
I would like to just return very briefly to things that should have been cut and mention that no one has discussed cutting the Eaters of the Dead
Okay.
the Eaters section.
Oh, don't cut them. Don't cut them.
So here's why I didn't say that, okay?
Okay. Because of Huron?
No, not because of Huron.
Okay.
I acknowledge that, that could have been just another element of world building, And I mean, in Player of Games, there were also descriptions and, societies that performed atrocities. And it got pretty graphic, right? So
Sure.
totally get it.
They were more central.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that this was, I mean, I personally could do without it, but if the author wanted to put a message out there, he wanted to fly his banner about certain things and use this as a vehicle to do so, then fine, whatever. I did not enjoy that part, and yes, that's the part that almost made me throw up. I don't even want to think about it.
It's less about cutting it for me, and the thing that really confused me is this is a culture orbital, and sure, you could say that the culture has abandoned it, so nobody's watching it, but why are they allowing this to occur?
It is an X culture orbital.
Oh, it's not actually currently an orbital. It wasn't a current orbital?
It's in some little midway state between official culture and non-official culture. It's
because it was so confusing to me that I know orbitals because I've read the series, so I'm like, why are these people here? The culture would not be cool with this.
The culture is fine with a lot of things as long as it's self-determined.
But
and this is an example of extreme religious tolerance.
But Song was like, okay, he's self-determined or whatever, thing, blob. But the other people, were they really self-determined, or is this one of those Stockholm syndrome type things? So,
well, the ship was there, the module was there for anyone who wanted to leave.
They could have left at any time, except for the one that got eaten.
Yeah, except for the one that got eaten.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to go there in the first place. Is the real answer.
That one tried to leave. The person that they ate was the one who tried to leave. So there wasn't really choice. I mean, I guess if you say the collective.
The culture was no longer enforcing anything on that island.
But they had a shuttle there. They could have. It means that they knew they were there. They had awareness.
They had a shuttle that they'd told to turn off its external monitors because it might find the things on the island disturbing.
That is true.
Because, I mean, there's that, and then I'm also, the damage game. If I was the culture, I wouldn't let that go either.
The module was too dumb for the culture to consider it a current module anyways.
Yep. I feel bad for it, though.
I feel very bad for that module.
Yeah.
It's probably the murder that I hate Horza for the most.
Yeah.
So upset about that.
He's so sociopathic about it too, right?
He fell for that one. He
Did
fell for
he?
that one. Yeah,
No, I don't think he did.
I think he did.
I think for him it was like it's a machine. Who cares?
He fell just a little bit.
Maybe a little bit, not a lot.
Not a lot. No, not a lot.
It's a machine. He doesn't care.
I think
Wow.
maybe that is his character arc where, that's earlier on in the storyline and we see him brutally murder this machine, but then later on the way that he treats the drone, Unaha Clasp, a bit better, not great. He treats him like a servant, but
Not
a
great.
little bit better. Maybe it's like, okay, he's coming around a little bit. I don't know.
Maybe.
Unaha Clasp is significantly smarter.
Yes.
And more interesting. I might have just made a realization.
Okay,
So going back to that whole flashback dream
sure.
part, you know how Horza was like, oh, her name is Kira Chell, and
Yep.
and the other guy is like, oh, Gira Shell or whatever, and then the Zora Lundra was like, oh, just a moment, and then he was like doing something on a machine or something, and then pushes Horza back, and then all of a sudden he wakes up.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this has any substance, but could it be that Kira Chell, him and her were never actually lovers, and everything that he thinks about her was implanted in his brain by the Idirans to tame him
Yeah.
or something? And then this whole time, on was it Shar's
Char's
world?
World. Yep.
He talks about Mr.
Oh yeah, what's his name?
It starts with A, guys. Appreciator or
Adjudicator.
I'm doing a search for Mr.
Okay.
Mr. Adequate.
Mr. Adequate. Yeah. And
Mhm.
we never see Mr. Adequate.
No.
There's no
I
sign.
mean, we don't even know if he has a body.
Right. Okay. So I'm just wondering if Mr. Adequate was his mind's way of rationalizing what he
So
went
no.
through. No. Okay.
Mr. Adequate is the
Oh.
Drazon in charge of Char's World.
Okay.
Yeah. That's different.
He's the person who maintains the defenses and watches over the planet.
Got it. Okay.
Doesn't really do anything.
And the reason that they call him Mr. Adequate is the Drazon are an elder civilization, and they don't really interact much with lower civilizations.
Mm.
Wait,
Okay.
the Drazon though, I thought that they sublimed and they just left stuff behind.
Mostly.
Ah, okay.
They're like beings of pure energy and resonance with the universe and stuff, right?
They remind me of Protoss. Every time I hear Dryazon and pure energy, I'm just like, power overwhelming.
Yep. That is the idea. They have power overwhelming. Probably overwhelming enough to stop the Adiran culture war if that's what they wanted to do. But they don't.
Yeah,
So-
totally.
I think that's why I was so confused. I was like, okay, this Dryazon is not doing its job. It's just like, hey, come on in, everybody. Check out what's happening. And I wondered if maybe it's because the Dryazon are curious about this culture Adiran war, and they're like, ooh, we can get a first-hand glance if they go to Shar's World. And so they bring it in as let's make a documentary. I just don't know why they let it go through.
Okay, so you want my theory?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
The Drazon allowed all of this to happen because they wanted to basically be a memorial for this war which killed out this whole planet.
God.
And they want to make the point of that old war impressed upon the young mind. And they want it to grow up to be more pacifistic than it might otherwise be.
Interesting.
Okay,
all right.
that I actually buy that theory.
I could buy that too.
I was thinking it would be another addition to their exhibit.
That's what I thought too.
No, because the epilogue makes it clear that
They clear
return journeys find no evidence of the stuff that happened.
Yeah.
The command trains are repaired and restored. There's basically no record of Bora Horza Gopachel's last visit to this planet.
Yeah, except this ball of
In the command system.
remnants. Yeah.
Yes. The bodies get moved, the trains get repaired.
That's actually a pretty solid theory.
I think that's a sound theory.
Because, I couldn't think of anything else.
Okay.
Huh, all right.
Going back to Horza's motivations. So we have now discovered, all of us, that he was mentally altered by the Idirans, but also it's made very clear that I think it's a rogue planet or a rogue planetoid that the Changers live on. And it's like kind of drifting through space, and currently it's in the Adiran sphere and has been for a while. And I think that is one of the primary motivations for why Horza does the things that he does, and all of his stuff afterwards is just kind of explanations after the fact.
Like,
the most important thing for him is the survival of his species.
mm-hmm.
And he thinks that if he makes himself useful to the Adirans, that the Adirans will classify the Changers as useful and they will be protected.
I see. I mean,
Don't give me
Yeah.
sympathy for Horza.
except ultimately he failed, right? Because they all
Yes.
died.
Yes,
So-
ultimately he did fail. They remained xenophobic to the end and died out.
Dang, that's right. I forget. They all died.
Mhm.
Don't try reasoning with the religious fascists.
But at
Yeah.
the same time, like they died, but like the culture's like so like super mega awesome at doing all of that genetic changing stuff that I'm sure that they could just like reincarnate them like Jurassic Park style. So it doesn't really, it's not that important.
The culture would also realize that those would not be the same Changers.
Fine.
Uh,
Or maybe they live on in simulation.
like the culture citizens right now are like they're basically Changers as is, right? Their control over their own bodies is
quite large, but it doesn't extend to the point of being able to replicate fingerprints on demand, as far as I'm aware.
That was pretty cool.
You don't know what they put on some special circumstances agents, right?
I'm sure special
True.
circumstances agents are different.
Yeah.
Well, like, how much do you think the culture took from the Changers? Like, observed them and was like, well, these are cool abilities. Let's replicate that.
They're around before the Changers, though. So I don't think that, if anything, it would have been the other way around. Like,
Yeah.
the Changers, humanoid species, like, they could have been altered and engineered from a previous culture humanoid species.
The Changers are also strictly biological, and the culture enhances its special circumstances agents with technological things as well.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying is like they learned from observations of how the Changers work and then replicated it.
I think the culture has no need for that kind of copying.
They can build bodies from first principles. They don't need to look to nature for imperfect systems.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, the culture spent a long time redesigning their own reproductive systems and brains.
And everything else.
Well, okay, that was a cool thing about the Idirans where it's like, they basically quote unquote grew out of sex. It wasn't important to them as warriors anymore.
They have a large portion of their life that's spent in post-sexual maturity.
Right. That was very interesting.
Yeah, it's a cool little bit of a life cycle there.
Mhm.
And also a very long life cycle for those Adirans.
Well, this is because from their world, they kind of had to be immortal, like everything did, because the world was like so hostile.
Yep. Actual Death Worlders.
Yeah.
Which makes sense for the way that they developed.
They're kind of like Zerg.
Kind of.
Yeah. I like their resistance to radiation.
Yeah, that was cool. Makes spaceship building easier.
It does, right? And it makes nuclear power something you can get much earlier on in the tech chain.
But then you don't have any good movies like Chernobyl.
I'm sure they have equivalents. I'm sure they have much worse.
That's probably true.
Do we ever see the Adirans actually enjoying anything?
No.
I mean,
yeah. Who are the real mindless drones in this book? Is it sorry? Who are the real mindless drones controlled by forces outside of their control?
Zorolandra and Zarl seem to get some like fun kicks in like controlling other people and beings.
But also who is the one that had no legs who like started up the train? Like at one point he's like kind of happy just being on a train, and I'm like, you guys missed your calling. You all should have just been conductors of trains, not warriors.
Yeah, trains are the way to happiness. I'll agree with that.
Oh dear.
I mean, these were some cool trains.
Yeah.
Mars World was really cool world building.
The command
Scary.
system was a cool idea.
The idea of just falling pretty much endlessly, that was terrifying.
Yeah.
Was this book published before or after the Civil War ended?
What?
I'm seeing some parallels. some inspirations, as you will.
Well, I'm just going to repeat what I said at the top of the episode here. Consider Phlebas was published in 1987.
Wait, which Civil War are you talking
Yeah,
about?
I'd love
Cold
to know what
Sorry,
Civil
Cold
War
War.
that
Cold
I'm
War.
unsure about.
Oh, the Cold War.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the Civil. Yeah, I mean, the
Before
Cold War was really a
ended.
civil war for humanity. When you think about it.
I mean, all wars are civil wars for humanity.
It was during the Cold War.
I wouldn't put it that much because it's a pretty hot war. You know, you've got orbitals being destroyed and
Oh, yeah, I'm talking about
Yeah,
the
The
command system.
command system was a
okay.
clear mirror for the Cold War.
yes, it was. Yeah.
and deterrence and
Yep. Mutually assured destruction,
Yeah.
which ended up being what happened.
It wasn't assured, right? 'Cause
What do you mean?
That was the idea behind the command system. There would be a chance, like they made it very statistically unlikely that you would kill the command structure of the.
Yes.
So then it breaks the mat.
Oh, because of the different trains.
But it
And
turns
just
out
like
you could
Star
still
Wars.
kill all the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Structure survived, people died.
Ain't that how it goes?
It's cool.
How many planets of the dead do you all think are in the culture universe?
A
A
lot.
A lot.
I don't know.
What percentage of planets? And there's no basis for this. There's no.
I think it's probably only like
Nothing
1%.
in any stance here.
I would imagine that the vast majority of intelligent species die out in some kind of great filter situation, and the interesting ones get kept around by the Drazon.
Well, that's
But-
dark. Okay.
I mean, if that's the case, then it's got to be a really huge number of planets because in the culture universe, like the number of it's like very crowded neighborhood, right? Like every time they expand a little bit, they're like, "Hey, here are these interesting triangle people that have to have 3 people to breed and play a crazy game." Like everywhere, there's just so much into the and even that
was in
small
another galaxy.
civilization was an empire. What? That was another galaxy?
Yeah.
Oh, it was.
That was in a Magellanic Cloud. Yeah.
Oh, you're totally right, man. But it's just super crowded. Like that's the way I see it. Is like very crowded. So then, if you're saying the Great Filter kills out most species, then there's got to be a lot of planets of the dead.
Yeah, I mean, if you're expanding, you have to have life-sustaining planets you can expand to, and you could
Yeah.
conquer the native species.
Do you have
or-
to have life-sustaining planets, or can
Sorry.
you just make
Well, okay, if
orbitals?
you're the culture, then you don't have to.
Orbital.
But there's a lot of civilizations other than the culture who are less advanced, and the culture kind of like, condescends to.
But
Yep.
also, I think the culture makes their orbitals because I think about this a lot now. They're kind of against like terraforming because life-sustaining
yep.
planet does not mean Earth-like. It could
That's
be
true.
like Titan. So
They also view planets as an inefficient allocation of resources.
that's
Yep.
true too. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, this not resource limited culture. It's just an aesthetic preference to them.
They're like, oh, a planet. The average culture citizen looks at a planet and is like, ooh, that's wasteful.
That's not very elegant.
Like, where do all their resources come from?
Look at all that internal volume that's just not being used.
Panda, there's so much hydrogen in the universe.
A ton. Yeah.
There's so many rocks. There's so many
Lots.
rocks.
Yeah.
I mean, even we have an asteroid belt, like just a bunch of rocks hanging out.
But-
So then that's times a million.
Doesn't at some point, like, the amount of material that they are reallocating, isn't that going to change the balance of the universe?
The universe is really big.
The universe is really big, and if they really cared about it, they could take the energy out of the energy grid
Oh my
to
god.
make the matter.
That's true, actually.
But
Yeah,
if, but if we do want to talk about the finite nature of matter in the universe, why don't we talk about that if we cover the book Matter?
Okay, sounds
Hell
good.
yeah. You sold the book to me.
I get surface detail and matter confused all the time.
Matter talks about the primacy of natural matter.
Okay. I still don't remember.
Well, it's okay.
But we'll
We'll
get
get to
there.
it eventually.
I mean, will we?
Will we not?
You got a long time skill to work on, right?
No, we
I
got,
just
we got,
can't
we
wait
got a
for this
while.
Surface detail. That
This
would be
book
funny.
certainly didn't endear the culture to you, Panda or Ash.
Okay, so here's the thing. Like, I did not enjoy this book as much as I expected to or hoped to, okay? But but the culture itself, right? The world, the universe, the minds, like all of that is very interesting to me. So I am totally willing.
The thing that I said makes this book bedrock 4 stars.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but like there was so much of this pages that I didn't like. So that's not 4-star material to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's clear when reading this that he's one of the smarter authors around. So his stuff is worth reading just for that. But I also happen to know that he actually can write well when he chooses to.
Yeah.
So
I applaud you for not having me read this book first and had me read Player of Games first, because I really did like Player of Games. And it is that enjoyment and knowledge knowing that there are books in this series that I really like that is making it okay for me to say, okay, even though I don't like this one, I will continue.
We actually have a listener question that kind of touches on this from Jingles. How well does this book work as a first? Do you see Banks leaning more into exposition here than in other books to establish the culture?
For me,
Yeah.
I would not read this as the first book.
Okay.
Like, no, thank you. How much exposition because it was the first to establish the culture? Like, I would say yes, there is more exposition, but at the same time, the way that it was done to me wasn't that effective. Like, if this were the first and only culture book that I read, I would be like, that was kind of cool at parts, but also really boring at a lot of parts. I don't think I want to continue, at least not immediately. But I think Player of Games actually made a pretty good intro because it had a lot of different elements. Like, it did tell me what the culture was. It gave me an in-depth view of like what was it like living in the culture, and then interactions with those outside of the culture and the differences. So I think that did much better job as an intro.
Okay.
I totally get that. I think the one thing that I would say that's having this having been my first culture book, you get different things out of it than you would after you've read more about the culture. So I feel like the first time I read it, when Horza would say stuff about like the culture and arguing about that machines running everything is a bad thing and that the culture bit off more than they could chew with the war, I got more out of it the first time I read because I didn't know much about the culture yet. So I was like, all right, cool, let me listen to this guy's argument, see what he said. And then after I read a lot more about the culture, every time he said that stuff, I was just like, you're stupid. You don't understand. And the Adherents have no idea what giant they woke up, and one day they're not even going to realize because the culture's just going to assimilate them. So,
wasn't it ridiculous when they had that space battle between the Adurans and the culture? I think it was just a GCU, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was hiding inside the surface of a star.
yes, it was so cool.
And they went over the battle record for Adiran versus culture combats, and they were like, no battleship has won against a GCU.
None.
Yeah.
We need like 10-1 numbers.
Yeah, basically all their victories are just them genociding civilian populations.
Yeah.
Like causing billions of deaths. And
yes,
I see that this is the intro that he wrote, and I see a lot of introductory elements to this. I agree with Panda. The introduction is not great in a lot of areas.
It's definitely not up front.
Yeah. If this was my first culture book, I would have missed a lot of what was interesting about the culture. That to be fair, is alluded to and sometimes spoken about briefly in conversations Horza has, like with Balveda at the start. And shout out to her just refusing to talk anymore because arguing with an idiot is a waste of time. That was excellent. And then he goes away thinking he's won the argument. He's like, oh yeah, she's coming around to my way of thinking. I'm so smart. Like the amount of fury that I feel at Horza from like almost every moment of the book really clouds over any interesting ideas that come here.
And Horza refuses to believe that the culture could win the war.
Yeah, which is absolutely insane to me. Absolutely insane.
Though, reading it, I was thinking, like, Belveda was, a prisoner, and she couldn't really do much, and, up until the very end, when she shot her tooth gun, whatever. But she had to be saved by Horza. Like, she was gonna die. I think that did, at least to me, show like, okay, the culture, it was more of a balanced war than a like overwhelming, victory for the culture. It wasn't until the end when it was the appendices and there was like the overview and talking about the aftermath and like everything that happened afterwards and the scale of the war. Then it was made really clear to me like, okay, the culture, well, first of all, why the culture even engaged in this war in the first place.
Mhm.
And then also just the way that the culture was patient and had a whole bunch of history and experience to draw from to be able to win, even though the adherents, yeah, it was just like at that point, then it was kind of crazy to think that adherents still thought they had a chance. But leading up to it, there were parts where I was like, okay, maybe the culture really can't win. So
That's why we went from the opposite side of the culture, right? Because we could see like maybe the culture might not win.
Yeah.
Which is why it might make sense to have it be a first book, or I don't know, actually maybe not, because then there's 9 after, so obviously the culture won. But it's interesting. It's not a perfect historical example, but I always think of the Adirian culture war in the idea of World War II of Japan like expanding and being like, all right, so, but we need to expand. We need to hit the United States because they won't
Yep.
let us expand any further. And then they hit the U.S. and for a little bit, the U.S. is like, oh no, you destroyed all our battleships. This sucked. And then 2 years later, it's like, you guys knew you weren't going to win this war, right? Like there was no way. Like once the U.S. kicked up into its war frenzy and started building everything and set everything out, it was just obvious.
Also, Japan thought that it would take months for the U.S. to enter the war, even once provoked. Even if they decided to. They thought they had at least like 3 or 4 months. But the U.S. had deployed troops within a matter of like a week.
Yeah.
And the Japanese didn't think that the Americans had the stomach for the war.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the bigger parallels because, like, even the people in the culture, like, wait, what?
Yeah.
do we?
Corza thinks
Yeah.
that cultures, people do not have the stomach.
Yeah.
The most annoying twink thought
Yeah.
on that boat thought that the culture didn't have the stomach, but I want to join contact anyways.
oh yeah, that guy.
The people are too soft and lazy.
Yep.
Right.
I think by far the most interesting critique of the culture here comes from Val Nagistro herself when she's doing that drug thing and she's examining the other side's the strongest possible case for the other side, and then the drug wears off. She's like, yeah, no, we're fine.
Yeah.
Are we morally decadent? No,
No.
our culture is pretty great.
We're pretty good. We don't do random genocides for religious reasons.
There were people from the culture who did defect because they're like, we should never be violent. We should be
Oh yeah.
peaceful. So there is some.
They didn't defect. They just exiled themselves.
The Adirian War is a major branching point for the culture.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It sees the birth of the peace faction, which believes a completely pacifistic ideology. I'm not sure if it's the origin of the Zetetic Elench, which are like even weirder. They believe that the way to contact alien species is to become like them.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
But there's a big splintering of the culture into various minor factions. There's still like the main culture, but the Adirian War saw the creation of like subcultures.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
Something I thought was interesting is how the book emphasized how fuzzy the distinction between culture and non-culture, not culture is. Like there's not a hard line where you just now you're part of the culture. It's just kind of like it's like a gradient, and honestly, kind of confuses me why anybody's not part of the culture because they're so culturally appealing. Like why are these pirates flying around in this garbage spaceship?
That's one of the main reasons for the pirates, in my opinion, is to like show a life that could be so much better if the people just joined the culture, but for one ill-adapted reason or another, they don't want to.
What was the girl's name?
Yeltsin.
Yeah, Yeltsin. So she was one of the more interesting characters, and I just felt bad for her like the entire time. She's just having a terrible time. Like first of all, she thinks that Horza is someone she should date, which
Bad idea.
horrible.
Bad instinct.
Then he kills and imitates her captain, and she's like, "Yeah, I guess I'll keep following him and have his kid."
She really
I mean,
hated
she
him.
was following Craiglin.
Yeah. Well, and then we learned that she was originally from the culture, or her mom was,
Yeah,
or
why did
something.
she choose to
And it's
leave?
like, oh man, this
Mm.
girl just has made bad decision after bad decision in her life.
Yep.
I've seen this movie.
I did not expect her to die. I wasn't expecting Horza to die either. I did think there was going to be some sort of happy ending, so there was that.
It was happy. Horza died.
Yeah. God,
Okay.
what a relief.
Belvedere was sad about it, though. Okay.
She
Why?
should be.
I was so confused.
It's the job of human culture agents to be sad about things.
But why did the drone name himself Horza?
Not a drone, a mind.
I mean, why did the mind decide that? Was it that mind instinct to be quirky, or did they really care about Horza?
I think the mind really cares about Horza,
Ugh.
but in a way that only minds can care about things.
Fine, I will take that.
Horza was a character only a mind could love.
Oh my god.
Now that's an obituary. It's too good.
I guess I'm still a little confused, like, as to why the mind cared so much about him.
Minds work in mysterious ways.
Oh my goodness.
Horza wanted Changer culture to be continued.
Think of the way they explain the minds in the tunnels of a filing cabinet filled with ideas, and then you have 50 buildings filled with those ideas. And actually, it's a whole planet of filing cabinet buildings filled with these ideas, and then a whole galaxy. So I basically read that part and I said, all right, so I'm not supposed to understand the minds? Got it.
Oh.
But you are supposed to understand that one of those minds could fit Horza inside of itself with no
Yes.
problem.
Yeah, the extra spatial nature of the minds was interesting.
I really
Yeah.
do like that aspect that the minds like exist partially in hyperspace or primarily in hyperspace.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Makes sense.
kind of raises the question, like, what's actually the distinction between the minds and like the Drazon, or like the beings of almost pure energy? Like, I guess they have like a mechanical tether, but do they need it?
They do need it. And remember that example of all of those boxes was an example of the mind functioning at full capacity,
Mhm.
not
Yep.
an example of the mind's current capacity.
Yeah, because it shut most of itself down.
Yeah, it
Why
had.
did it do that?
It didn't have the power.
Oh,
It didn't have a ship supplying it with enough power to run a full mind.
I thought it was worried that Mr. Adequate would like get mad, be like, "Yo, no hyperspace tapping here, bro."
No, it had just enough to jump itself into a planet, and then it
Okay.
was effectively in distress.
So the beginning of this book, right, where the whole explanation of these ships and like one of them got destroyed and the mine escaped and all that, that was so cool.
I love those sequences.
It was
Yes.
so misleading.
Yeah.
That's totally fair.
You had to wait till the end of the book.
Yeah, it was a really, really strong start and a really, really strong post end. And there were some
Yeah,
really
in the
cool
middle.
interludes in the middle.
So you have really, really nice bread on the outsides, and then somebody went out and bought the generic version of Oscar Mayer ham, and that's all that's in the middle.
You know what? I was going to say bologna. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it made the bread soggy.
Mm.
And it was going bad.
Okay,
Because it has to have that smell, because this book has a smell in the middle.
Oh.
can I make one more complaint?
Sure. You can make many more.
Okay.
You make two more. That's it.
Okay. So in the tunnel, when Horza sees the Adiran and whatever his name is, the prisoner dude,
Zoxarl?
Zarl, and was like,
Zoxarl.
that, whatever, that guy.
There's an introductory exo.
Oh, God.
Zoxarl.
And, he's like thinking about killing him, and it was like, no, this would be too easy and too
Ugh.
good of a death for you. So I'm going to take you prisoner and I'm going to take you to be tried.
Such a mistake. Such a lie to himself as well.
I'm like, dude, how many prisoners can you really manage here? Like, no. Where's your survival instinct?
And the prisoner escapes at one point and tries to kill all of them. And he just-
Multiple. Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, the entire book is just like, I was just like reading, is like, how is this guy not dead yet? He, at every juncture in his entire life, it seems, he's made exactly the worst decision possible. The worst, most like homicidal, maniacal, awful, morally dubious thing. And he just keeps doubling down, and somehow it works for him.
One
Ugh.
wonders if maybe there's some mental imprinting on him that prevents him from killing an Adiran.
Maybe.
Could be.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's just like, he just keeps getting away with it.
Yeah.
And people are letting him get away with it too. Like,
And then they die.
yeah, how was the pirate crew okay with this job? It was like terrible from the start. I mean, I guess they were stupid enough to follow Craig. So.
They're stupid enough to be pirates in this world in the first place.
That's fact, yes.
All of them are so broken.
They're like sheep, but sheep that are too stupid to follow like the obviously pleasurable and good shepherd that's just waiting there for them.
That's normally how sheep go, isn't it?
They want the excitement. They want the thrill of almost dying regularly until
Oh,
they
yeah.
finally do die.
Yeah.
There was that one part where it was like, oh yeah, things are getting too quiet anyway.
Yep. Easy in, easy out.
Well,
Oh my god.
no, Horza is like, he's like a really terrible, stupid version of, what's his name in Malazan? Korab?
I did think that. Yeah. Who gets really lucky?
Yeah, kind of. He's a religious fanatic.
Yep.
Let me just insert the moment when he was watching the destruction of the orbital and pontificating, like, this is why the culture is going to lose, because they can only bring destruction to the universe.
Oh my god.
I would have put the book down. I would have ripped it in half. There are very few things I put myself through that have made me as viscerally angry that I'm doing it as like that section.
You really just did not like Horza's lies to himself, did you?
They were so stupid.
They're terrible.
I'd never like more than any other time. I just want to reach through the pages and slap him, and just have like a very long argument that wouldn't end well for either of us.
You know, I did have a hard time a little bit with the orbital Vavatech or whatever.
Vivach.
Vavach. Thank you.
Definitely wasn't my Wi-Fi network for a couple of years. No, definitely not.
Was it a good Wi-Fi network? And I guess like this was the proxy for, the Cold War metaphor.
Civil War.
Yeah, the Civil War. Because like it's if you won't leave this orbital alone, then nobody can have it. I'm gonna destroy it. But at least the culture had the sense to try and evacuate everybody. Before they destroyed it.
They offered free evacuations to everybody too.
Yeah. People just didn't choose.
But no, they're degenerates that can only sow destruction.
At the same time, though,
Horza was amazed that they would even attempt that because orbitals are massive.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like the fact that they destroyed, this orbital that was home to so many people. Like people had to leave their homes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And some of them didn't.
And some of them didn't.
I'm sure that the entirety of the population in that orbital could have relocated to any number of culture worlds that would have been like infinitely better for no cost.
Yeah.
But they could have. That was made very clear. Yes, they could have.
Yeah.
They could have.
But still, like they had to leave the lives that they had built. Or
the horrible lives that they had built in this horrible
we
place.
Don't know that for everyone.
But like, come on. One plate looks a lot like another.
Oh.
Well, actually, plates could look exactly like another. They could rebuild Vivach way into their own space.
That's true.
I think only a few were like all water, like that one was. Yeah, they were all living on cruise ships.
And
all
if
water?
you have,
I thought it was just a lot of water.
No, there were little bits of land at the edge.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what the beach that the eaters were on. But even if you are traumatized by this, you're feeling sad or whatever, guess what? The cultures you covered there too. They could just make that go away.
Let me brainwash your pain away.
Like it's the Balveda refuses the PTSD treatments, and she's like, "No, I'm gonna live with my PTSD." But like when it's a choice, then like, dude.
Maybe they just haven't lived in our time.
I mean, it's the culture. They could make an exact copy of Vivach.
Yeah, they could simulate it even like exactly as you would known about it, and you could just live in that simulation forever, and they could make you forget that there was a simulation.
Sure, but we also live in a time where we read this stuff and we go, man, that would be nice. Whereas in Player of Games, they deliberately got the flu to see what it would be like.
That's a use of weapons, right?
Oh, is that use of weapons? I thought it was Player
Yeah.
Games.
Use of weapons.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's use of weapons. All right.
Because that's SMA.
Oh, you're right. That's small.
Yeah. That was hilarious subplot though.
Yep. And they can just be stored until the new Vavach is built.
Yeah.
I guess.
You don't have
Yeah.
to even experience any time of waiting.
Yeah.
I would be totally okay with leaving my home to go live in the culture.
Sure.
100%.
They could destroy my apartment. I would be totally fine with that. I have no sympathy for these refugees.
You know, they take us all. They can destroy Earth.
Oh dear.
Who would choose to live on a megaship as opposed to other culture habitats?
Uh.
I mean, I guess it's sort of like you're always traveling.
And who would love to see that megaship crash done in like a TV adaptation or a movie adaptation?
Definitely.
Because in my mind, that's one of the most like cinematic parts of the culture series.
Yeah.
That was a very Titanic moment without the deaths of
And compelling
Titanic.
characters.
It was kind of weird, and also too much description about that boat. Just
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not
Oh,
in that
dragged on.
description.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just thought of it as a huge triangle.
a huge triangle.
Yeah,
Was-
I don't know
was
why.
definitely- Okay.
The ship is just a huge triangle.
It
Star
is. I mean,
Destroyer.
the culture does what they want. It was basically a Star Destroyer.
You just thought of it as a floating Star Destroyer.
Yeah, that's basically what I thought of it. So when I saw the smash, I was just like, all right, so I could see it.
Yeah.
I could see what happened to my Lego UCS Star Destroyer if I pushed it into a wall really hard. So
Okay. Yeah.
Legos don't buckle right.
that one does because the plates, well, there's Technic on the inside, so not completely, but the plates themselves are all just like one flat line. So it kind of like, it's just, yeah, it's wild.
Okay.
Go online and look up YouTube videos of Lego
I still
Star
don't think it
Destroyer
would
being
buckle right.
smashed into walls. It wouldn't buckle that way, you're right, because it's like, but
ABS
still.
does not buckle super well. Just snaps.
We were having a short conversation in the Discord group chat, and we cut it off early because it was
So talk.
episode talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was in reference to the Eaters being a metaphor for human fanaticism and refusal for humans to escape these horrible systems they found themselves in for a lot of reasons, like sunk cost fallacy and whatever. I said, I think it's an apt metaphor, but also that it would not convince anybody who would need to hear the message in the first place. Does anybody here disagree?
No.
No.
So it's just like Banks like pontificating on how flawed we are as a species without like much point to it. It seemed.
I do not think that Banks is particularly interested in having conversations with people with closed minds.
I guess that's fair considering the conversation Horace has with Velveeta at the start.
Yep.
Yeah, he probably had too many futile arguments, and honestly, I get that.
I do too.
Sometimes a mind will just remain closed, and it's kind of impossible.
Yeah, and about topics where people are willing to go through the extent of what the Eaters were doing, then I would say that the chance of changing their minds is pretty low.
Yeah, and I guess everyone in this book is doing that to some degree.
Yeah. I mean, the whole crew of the Clear Air Turbulence should have interventions run on them to be like, why are you doing this lifestyle? Stop. It's going to kill you in like the next couple weeks.
I was also kind of disappointed with Unaha Closp. And it was like, oh, I kind of feel good when Master calls me a good slave now.
Oh, I thought that was sarcastic.
Yeah.
Sarcasm.
Yeah? You think so? It was this internal
It was
monologue.
sarcastic, and I have not ruled out Unaha Closp being a special circumstances drone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get its internal monologue, right? And it's
Yeah,
thinking,
but I thought that was
Oh,
sarcasm.
Maybe he's, yeah, I suppose.
Because everything else he says is all sassy and quippy and like, sure,
Yeah.
I'll go and check out this reactor car.
It's a very sassy drone.
Yeah, the fact that it does anything at all for Horse, it boggles my mind, you know?
Well, he tried to explain that to Velveeta, right? Like,
I think he gets like actual satisfaction just from doing like electrical engineering work.
Yeah. Oh,
No, I think so too. Yeah.
yeah. If you want to do electrical engineering work, there's like so much that you can do that isn't at the behest of this racist moron that constantly insults you.
Yeah, but if Balveda's going along with it, then a special circumstances drone might go along with it.
Oh,
Yep.
I suppose. Well, feels very tinfoil hatty though.
I put on my tinfoil hats for these culture episodes.
That's yeah,
Gonna
no, that's
happen.
fair. I guess if you wanna, if it makes the book better for you, Kip, I'm all for it.
I mean,
If in-
you've got what's
Come
his name from Player of Games bird watching half of the thing, right? It's
Right.
like, so
Oh, yeah.
they just do their thing.
Bird watching. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I maintain that the limiting factor there has more to do with Gurga than the book shows, clearly.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You can't just have a mind and not have it do anything.
Yeah, they like to
Yeah,
be useful.
you just let the dumb humans think that they're the important ones the entire time because it's good for their mental health. And
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
The only time that a mind isn't running circles around someone is when it's extremely devolved, like this one that got trapped in Char's world. It's
Mhm.
not even running in hyperspace anymore. It's in like a dumb little mechanical brain. It's like closer to human baseline.
Even if it had like one drone to work with, like a proper drone to work with, it still would have absolutely wiped the floor with everybody. Right?
Yeah. If it had had a missile drone,
There you go. Or like a knife drone even, everything's fine.
See, this is why I always talk about, how everybody like AI is becoming bigger and obviously we knew we'd get here and everybody always goes to like Skynet and like thinks that AI is gonna like destroy us and like make its own thing. But I think that that's for an AI, like especially these minds, they're so far out there that that's the boring option. Like anybody can stomp on your enemies that have no ability to fight you. Why not co-opt everything and then make a game out of it and then make it into some utopia against their will, even if it is their will, but they don't know it. That's way more fun.
It all depends on what their reward function is.
That's true.
they did say that some Adyrans joined the culture in the epilogue.
Mhm.
Yeah. Don't we? Maybe those are Hamamdans I'm thinking of.
The culture never technically vanquished their planet, but what they
Right.
did do was they removed the restrictions on the AI that was running their home planet,
Right.
self-updated itself, and then essentially declared independence and
Hilarious.
became a culture mind in all but name.
Yes.
Absolutely hilarious.
Nicely done.
One wonders why they didn't do that initially.
I love that as a war-ending move.
Why didn't they do it at the start?
Effectors have range.
Ah,
And then because the Adyran space was actually fairly
Yeah.
large.
Yes,
'Cause
Adyran
it's-
space is quite large. And the Homomdans were their allies. And the Homomdans had culture equivalent technology.
culture superior according to the epilogue. I don't know if
A superior in some areas, but not others.
Why didn't the Hamamdans help more? If they really had equivalent or superior technology in certain areas, then if they were gonna back somebody, why not really push?
They wanted status quo.
And they also continued their trade with the culture, even though
Yep.
they were allied with the Durans.
The Hamamdans were the United States and Vietnam. We
Mm,
don't really care about winning anything. We just want to keep this centered the same.
mm.
They were anti-war. They didn't want like either side really to go for the war, but they thought the Adyrans had the slightly better argument.
Okay.
And then they're like, actually, nah.
Actually,
This
yeah,
is-
after a couple decades of this, no, we're done.
it's a terrible argument. What are you talking about?
They were like, okay, you guys are actually pretty annoying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, would you want to have the Adyrans as your allies in war? They don't seem to really value that.
No.
No.
Are you saying religious fascists don't make good allies?
I don't know.
At least these ones don't.
Not good neighbors either.
Three-legged beings all rise together.
Ooh. When are we going to cover the tripod series?
Oh, hey, that's a good one.
What is it?
The tripod series. It's an old science fiction series about aliens who invade Earth, but they walk over the surface in these large machines with 3 legs.
Okay.
It's really good.
I think I've seen that. It's called War of the Worlds.
It kind of is a War of the Worlds, but like a what if after the aliens succeeded occurred and then human races enslaved.
The aliens succeed. They make like dome cities where they live, and every year they select new faithful because they put these mind controlling caps on all humans,
Oh, great.
Yeah.
which like predispose you to loving the aliens and making you incapable of resisting them.
I see.
And then every year, new faithful are selected to serve the aliens inside their domed cities. And we follow a couple of resistance members who have given themselves and tried to infiltrate the cities and see what they can do.
Interesting. All right, maybe.
Mm.
But speaking of next books, what are we going to read next?
Yeah, Panda, you said you need a break, right?
I didn't enjoy this enough to approach use of weapons next because when I did try to read use of weapons, I wasn't
Dusty.
quite into it.
Sorry, my bad.
No, it's fine.
No, I'm blaming Dusty.
It's fine. I want something that we have collective confidence that I will enjoy.
I
That's
don't
Okay.
have confidence in you enjoying anything that I recommend.
Oh,
Not that I think you're hard to please. I just have my metrics for what you enjoy is completely off.
I mean, I get that too,
Okay.
because I mean, that's why I picked that book first. Because for me, in the world of sci-fi, that one to me was like, this is an entry point. Sure. Everything's an entry point except for Void Star or this other book that I just read. So,
I also just need something like shorter.
Use of Weapons is an excellent book, but I think we will skip over it and we will do the state of the art instead.
Okay.
should we
which
do
is an
state of the art, or she keeps talking about mines, and so what about Excision?
Accession would be next if we go over state of
Okay.
the art.
Deal.
Accession would be next, and you know how much I want to do Accession, so I can't be impartial
Yeah,
about this topic.
I mean, more minds, I'm down.
But I love Accession so much.
How much?
Excision is all mines, basically.
It's a
Oh.
third Minds,
Hell yeah.
It's a lot.
at least.
Yeah.
It's a third Minds, but then also like 2/3. Sorry, it's 1/3 Minds, 1/3 pregnant woman moping in a tower,
Yep.
and 1/3
It's like other stuff.
contact agent who used to date the woman who was moping in the tower.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're really selling this book to me at this moment.
There's a lot of mine stuff. It's really, really good. There's a lot of
Okay.
mine stuff in it.
Yeah, that's all you need to say, I think.
I
Yeah.
believe you, but I think
State of the art, they go to Earth.
let's go with the shorter one for now because I
Okay.
still
Okay.
need to finish Malazan, and Crippled God is next.
Crippled
So-
God
Oh,
is
I'm gonna
heavy,
read-
big, and I'm so excited to see you guys finish this.
Crippled God's great.
What's the Dreams book 4 is next, though.
Yes.
Oh, that one's good too.
The last two really blur together in my mind. Can't separate them in my head.
Oh, I've got a big separation point, so
Oh, interesting.
yeah.
So we're going to go with state of the art.
Excellent.
Yep.
And we will get back to use of weapons. It's not like we're
Yeah,
not
and
gonna
then
cover.
Accession after that.
Yeah, I
And then
would
just
cover.
continue with the series and then go back to use of weapons.
I would do a solo episode on use of weapons if no one else was up for it.
Wow.
Sharon is up for that episode.
It
So
would
no, you're
take
not
me
gonna get
3
that.
hours.
Just you alone would be 3 hours.
You know what? You can host
Listen,
that episode. Buddy, host that episode.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I could talk about use of weapons for a very long time.
Oh
Please.
gosh. Okay. All right.
Let's do it.
That
Let's do
definitely
it.
needs to happen after I finish Malazan because
Just
I.
the chapter list is beautiful.
You've had enough of me talking about for
No,
hours
no,
about
no, no,
stuff.
no. I feel like I need to give it my full attention. Like I shouldn't just skim.
Yes.
You know.
Absolutely.
I will say use of weapons, another unlikable protagonist.
Great.
But an
like
interesting,
him.
unlikable protagonist.
Better. Much better.
Interesting, not stupid.
Okay.
Does it make me awful that I kind of like him?
No.
Okay.
I'm okay not liking the character as long as the book is engaging. You know. So
Mhm.
Well, it's engaging, all right.
there you go.
Love that book.
All right.
Okay. Well, this has been the Legendarium Green Team and our second culture episode. Woo! It's been a blast having all of you here. Thank you, Craig, for loaning us this corner of your media empire. Thank you, Horizon Brave, for getting us all started. Our intro and outro music is Galactic Damages by Jingle Punks. And we'll see you next time with the state of the art.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.